तो मुझे ये बताओ, लेट्स गो बैक टू दैट चाइल्डहुड, थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में बात करते हैं. एंड आई एम नॉट स्टीरियोटाइपिंग, सो आई डोंट वांट टू स्टीरियोटाइप, बट growing up in northern India as a girl, take us through the construct of how your mind was. How was the ecosystem around you? Because we are in the same generation. Our generation is very different compared to aaj ke generation. So take us a little bit through that whole thought process of growing up, to say that how does evolution of a mind take place, to say that yes, I know that I want to rule the roost in the role that I want to at a particular point of time. Obviously, if you look at it, no one has that vision on day one. Right. It's an evolution.
Yeah.
वो उभरता है.
Absolutely.
आप जर्नी में चलते जाते हो और आपके सामने जो, if I may call it the, मंजिल साफ होता जाता है, because रास्ता मैटर करता है. So talk about the rasta first. We'll talk about the manzil later.
Absolutely.
Take us through your childhood. Take us through growing up in Delhi, growing up as a girl child. How were things? Was anything specific? Was anything stereotypical? Or were you blessed to have a very, very different mindset?
Yeah. So, the person who I am today is evolved, I think, from two phases. तो हम पहले वाले phase के बारे में बात करेंगे जो आप बात करें, which is childhood. So, I was the only child to my parents for 10 years, right? Which basically meant कि I was a center of attention, right? और कोई compete करने के लिए था नहीं मम्मी पापा के attention के लिए. And all their aspirations and hopes are also pinned on me in that sense. Also, both my parents had come from two very small places. So, Mama had come from a small place called Sonipat, Papa had come from a small place called Bareilly. And they both left their families behind to come together and create a livelihood and create a life which was, in their mind, hopefully more aspirational than their parents. Right? So, both of them, so I grew up seeing my parents' work ethics, and I think that's a big shape of what my own work ethics are. I've just grown up believing and knowing that working hard is absolutely mandatory, essential, like breathing is, to succeed in life, and you should give nothing less than that.
Which is the typical middle class teaching.
Very typical middle class teaching, right? So my mom was a government school teacher, my dad was working in the bank, Papa would get transferred every 3 to 4 years. So there were periods of time as I was growing up that it would be just Mama and me at home. And Mama is this one fiercely independent woman who would, run the entire household herself. She would wake up in the morning, see me off to school, go to school herself, come back, do everything that a woman needed to do to run a household, plus also do all the external घर के बाहर का काम. अगर लाइट चेंज करनी है, प्लम्बर से कुछ काम कराना है, मार्केट से कुछ लेके आना है, रिलेटिव्स के पास कुछ जाना है. There were periods of time when Papa was not around that Mama would do that. So for me, frankly, growing up, I never was aware of the fact that I'm a gender, that I should be thinking differently. For me, it was very natural to actually think that a woman does the same as what a man does.
True.
Because I had such a strong role model in my mom. My dad would come back on the weekends, so he would come back Saturday night, go early morning, Monday morning. So we'd see him for Sundays, So my biggest recollection of, my growing up years is, spending long periods of time with, Mama and I. Then my kid brother happened 10 years later. And then all of a sudden I was this, eldest child, right? And I call it the eldest child syndrome. So I think that happened to me. So from being the center of attention for 10 years, then to being this eldest child, which, again, if you study human psychology, this eldest child phenomena has a certain stereotype in that sense, or certain ways that it influences your personality, right? Because you become accountable and responsible for everything.
And at a much earlier age.
At a much earlier age, right? But, so there was, again, those periods of time, Mama would be there, I'd be there, and my younger brother would be there. And for Mama, she would lean on me a lot to help out. Like she would send me alone to a market far off, to get something, or to, handle again some of these things. So I grew up actually, and thank God for that, I grew up where both my parents never treated me differently for my gender. And I was in an all-girls school. So again, there was no way for me to witness any differential treatment even there, right? So for me, the first time when I became aware of gender was actually when I started working.
Not even college.
Not even college. When I started working, where I even remember this one conversation where I was talking to one of the large bathroom fitting company, and I was talking to the CFO, and something happened, and I don't know in what conversation I said, some conversation happened. I said, yeah, maybe I should become the CFO of your company or something like that, I said, right? And he said, ma'am, have you noticed that there is no woman in our company? And I said, really? And that was the first time I was like, actually, he's right. But because I grew up all throughout, never even paying attention to gender, either mine or anyone else's, right. Every individual was an individual. I was an individual, every person I was friends with or a colleague with or a teacher or whatever, it was always who you are as an individual, what your whims and fancies are, what your personality traits are. So this was the first time, and then actually somebody made me like sit back and say, haven't you noticed? Then of course, I started paying a little bit more attention, that after that whenever I would go to companies and offices, to start noticing that are there other women or not. And then
so it's like a subconscious, if I may say, cognitive element that came into you at that point of time.
At that point of time. And then over a period of time, I started noticing that there'll be many boardrooms, many rooms where I'm talking to senior leadership and I'm the only woman in the room.
So we're going to come a lot to that, because that's a very beautiful element.